want to thank David Jack over here on camera. David did a huge amount of work on the cover, which is wonderful, and the photos in the book. And last but certainly not least, my wonderful husband Norman. The book wouldn't have been done without him, without his encouragement and making the time and space for me to do it. So thank you most of all to Norman. There's other acknowledgements in there, but let's go through these. The next one. So Terra Australis Incognita. So that just basically means the unknown Southland. So right back from ancient times, cosmologists believed that there must be a huge land between the bottom of South Africa and the bottom of South America to fill in that huge expanse of ocean there and balance the northern and southern hemispheres. And because it was unknown, they called it Terra Land Australis South Incognita, unknown. And so come the age of discovery in the 16th century, we have all the explorers going out from Spain, Portugal, France, England to try to find this land here. And in time to come, we know that the name Australia came, but I'm going to come to that. And we'll go to the next one. Pedro Ferdinand de Quiros, 1565 to 1615. He was born in Evora, died in Panama. He had an incredible vision, incredible passion to find this Southland. And he actually believed he had a divine mission to bring Indigenous people into the Catholic faith. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And there's some very breaking news which you're going to find out tomorrow about that. I won't go into that now. He was chief pilot on Mandana's 1595 Solomon Island trip. And there's stories about that in the book. We'll go on to the next one. Mandana originally had the vision and then Quiros picked it up. And later on he passed it on to someone else, basically a Franciscan. So the next one here, no, we're going back to that one. Noted Australian historian Manning Clark, who many of you would have heard about, actually he has this quote in his Short History of Australia, Volume 1, page 15. He began to believe he had been singled out by God as the vessel by whom the inhabitants of Terra Australis would be received into the true church, and that Terra Australis would be Australia del Espirito Santo, a land dedicated to the Holy Spirit. Putting this in context of the time where it has the words true church, this is in the time of the Counter-Reformation, and the Spanish were trying to beat the Dutch and other Protestants to these new lands. That's another story, but that's in the book as well. There's so much in the book about the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisitions, the Reformation and Counter-Reformation, the slave trade. As you heard Norman speak earlier, it's really a world history, not just a history of the Southwest Pacific. Indigenous people were in these islands first, and we can see that Quiros actually did have a love for Indigenous people. Next one. Despite all of that, unfortunately, as the Spanish, who had such a passion to find these lands, there were deadly encounters in the Pacific. And the book talks about the loss of life of Indigenous people, very, very tragic events that happened on Solomon Islands and other nations in the South Pacific, including Vanuatu. The sad thing about it is, many of us in Australia, we look at the good side of what happened, but there was a tragic loss of life before Quiros made the declaration that he made, and it's really important that we recognise that. Okay, next one. Luis Valles de Torres, 1565 to 1606. born in Galicia, Spain. Very interesting with Torres, he was the one who led the landing parties and so was responsible for most of the loss of life of Indigenous people. He was second to Quiros, and they all sailed from Lima's port of Callao in Peru on the 21st of December 1605. It's really interesting because I'm going to be very quick, but when we first looked at this area, and as Norman said before, he looked at possibly retracing the steps of Quiros, we originally imagined a scenario of Spain to Vanuatu, but it was really Spain to Peru to Vanuatu, and Peru very much figures in this story. And I did find out that also, just toward the end of the writing, that while Torres lived in Spain, he was actually a Breton or a Celt, one of the ancient Britons. Okay, next one. So this is a map of Espirito Santo, and it's on Randall Borris Church in Luganville, the capital of Espirito Santo. The people there believe that they are the custodians of Quiros's declaration because they still carry that name. They're the only place in the Pacific that carries that name. So on behalf of the whole Pacific, they believe they are the custodians of his declaration.